In the first video, we took a look at the difference between color plot styles and named plot styles. And we said that when you start a brand new drawing, you can establish those. So here, when you go to the application menu and go to New and Drawing, if you get this dialog box, you can either click on ACAD DWT if you want to use the default color dependent plot styles, which we talked about in the last video, being based on color and properties attached to that color. Or you can use the ACAD named plot styles, which would be like naming the properties. So you might have one called bold lines, and then the properties are going to be a thicker, bolder line. So in this video, we'll start from the beginning, and going through this chapter, we're going to set up some standards like our grids, our snaps, our layers, and then we're going to set up a layout, which we talked about in the first couple of weeks, but we'll revisit that again. And then we're going to save it as our own template so that we can use it for our drawing. So the first thing we'll do here is either use the file that you edited with in the first video, or go ahead and click on ACAD named plot styles. And by the way, if you don't get this select template dialog box, then you can type in at the command line, all one word, start up, and enter, and then change the number from 0 to 1, or from 1 to 0, depending on which way you want to start your new files. So here we want to pick ACAD named plot styles, and all that does is it sets up a drawing with that template. They're using kind of the old school drop down menus at the top. Right now there are tabs, and these tabs are controlling the ribbons, the ribbon, and then there are panels in each one of the ribbons. Well, I don't ever use this, but in the books, some of the books here, if you first of all, let's use the drafting and annotation workspace. We'll get to the 3D modeling, or back to it, when we start to create a 3D drawing. But right now we can go to the drafting and annotation workspace, and then there's a little drop down little arrow right there. You can go click on that and then pick show menu bar if you don't have the menu bar. So this is kind of the old school drop down menus. This is how they're having us in the book go to tools and drafting settings down here at the very bottom, drafting settings. And when you do that and you go to drafting settings, you're basically put into this drafting settings dialog box. It has all of these tabs. Well, what I'd like to do is to show you a different way without using the old kind of old school, my opinion, pull down menus. At the very bottom here, you have a couple of icons that will show you the snap. The second one is the snap mode. The third one is the grid. And if you just right click on any one of these, right click with your pointer rested on the second or third icon, you can pick settings. And you're back at the drafting settings here dialog box that they're talking about in chapter 7. So here in this drafting settings dialog box, in the snap and grid tab, we're going to set up here the grid spacing to be 1. So you can see here that you can independently have a grid spacing that's different than the snap spacing. When you type in 1 and then click in the Y spacing, you'll see that they match. So they're both 1. And then we're going to also make sure that the snap spacing is 0.5 for the X and the Y directions. And then we'll go ahead and pick OK. And we're just going to verify that both the second and the third icon at the very bottom here are blue and on. And just for now, because we're not using them right now, we can turn all the other status bar icons to gray. So only the second one and the third one are going to be on or blue. And then we'll go through and set up our layers. In the layers panel, we can click on this layer property icon here and pick the new layer icon. There are several layers that they're having us create. Once you click on the new layer icon, you can start to type in. The first layer is construction. You can press enter twice and type in the next one. Object lines. And then press enter twice and continue creating these layers. The next one is called hidden lines. Press enter twice and type in center lines. We have one called dimensions. Press enter twice. Then section lines, cutting plane lines, title block, title block, lettering, and the last one there is called a viewport. You can just press enter once. If you end up with an extra layer, you can highlight it and pick the red X here. And now we're ready to set up our colors. If the column is smaller and you can only see the W and the word white, you can double click on that little line between the column headings and it will readjust its column width, sort of like other software programs. You can even hold your left mouse button down on that line and make that column a little bit bigger. So according to this, the construction lines now are going to be gray. So gray could be any one of these grays. We have a dark gray and we have a gray. So I'm just going to go ahead and make it color 9. Let me see if these are color. No, these are all colors. So I'll make it color 9 for gray. And because we're using a plot style that is the named plot style, color is really only visual now and has no link to properties like the colored plot style would be. So go ahead and pick color 9 here and pick OK. For the construction layer, I can go ahead and change the object lines color to blue. We'll just stick with these colors right here that are in this strip that are underneath here, the color palette. So we'll use blue or color 5. Pick OK. And then the hidden lines layer is going to be cyan, which is kind of this light blue color or color 4. The center lines are going to be red, and I'm following the book example here. The dimensions are magenta, so the layer for dimensions, I'll click on the word white, and magenta is this light purple color or color 6. And then the section lines here will stay as white, section lines layer. The cutting planes layer, cutting plane lines layer will be this dark gray or color 8. And then the title block layer will be color green, or let's go with the green here, the third one, number 3. And the title block lettering will also be green. And the viewport layer they're using is white. So most of the line weights are defaults, but we do have here the object lines, which should be bolder. So we'll go ahead and pick the default line weight for object lines and pick 0.6 millimeter, which is a nice bold line for a smaller project like this. And the hidden lines are going to be lighter. So we'll highlight hidden lines and we'll make that 0.3. Actually, they're a little bit bigger than the default. So they're lighter than the object lines, but the default line weight is 0.25. So they're just a little bit bigger than the default line weight. The cutting plain lines layer is going to be 0.6 millimeters. So we'll scroll down and click on 0.6. And then the title block line, which was green there, is going to be our boldest line. And they're recommending 1.25 or 1.2. I've never used it that bold, but we'll see how it turns out for the title block layer. Now, this is a little bit different in that when you use line weight here, you're ignoring pretty much the plot style line weight, because you have a choice of keeping all of these defaults and using the plot style, or changing them here in the layer and using the individual layer to establish your line weight. It just depends on your company standard. I'm going to go ahead and close out of this. And right now we're in the model space at the bottom left corner. We talked a little bit about layout 1 and 2 in the first couple of assignments that we worked with, and as a 3D object we created a viewport. So we'll just review it a little bit here. When you click on layout 1, you're actually looking at a sheet of paper with the dashed lines being the margin of the paper. So what we can do here is we can actually double click right inside the drawing, and what you have is a hole inside the paper. It's called a viewport. And so now if I double click outside of that hole and into the paper, I'm in the paper or layout space. And you can tell a little bit because you have a triangular icon here at the bottom left corner if you're in the paper or layout space, and if you double click here, you won't see that triangular icon. You're actually in the model space. So double click outside into the paper space, and once you're in the paper space, here's another indication of what space you're in. Down at the bottom right corner, you see the word paper. If you click on that word icon that says paper, then you scooch over a little to the left, you'll see another one that's called model. So now you're in the model. If you click on that icon that says model, it'll come back to paper. So with here the paper or layout 1 space visible, you can click now on this box that represents the viewport or the hole in the paper, and then delete it. You can either pick delete on the keyboard or erase, or right click and pick erase. You won't be able to select it if you're still inside the box. So if you're still inside this hole, you won't be able to select it, right? You see your cursor will change from a crosshair to a pointer. So you need to double click out here, select it, and then erase it. So now you're pretty much just looking at the sheet of paper with the margin. And what they're suggesting here is that you right click with your pointer, rest it on layout 1, and you pick page setup manager. This is how we set up the different paper sizes. So each one of these tabs or these layouts can be a different size, 11 by 17, 24 by 36. So if we pick page setup manager here, and then we go ahead and pick modify, we can set up the printing for this specific layout. You probably have here a printer that you're set up to that will give you the letter size. Because we're in a layout space, we don't have to change what to plot. What to plot is layout. And we don't have to center it, we don't have to scale it, because it's the paper, which is 1:1. Now, we will change here at the top right our pen assignment table to ACAD STB. And the whole idea of this assignment is to show that you can use a CTB for the color dependent plot styles we talked about in the last video, or the STB for the named plot styles. There's our ACAD STB. Now, if you put a check mark in display plot styles right here, the layout space becomes your print preview. It won't display color, it'll just display black and white and whatever you're printing. So I'll keep the checkout mark out for now, because the book is not having us do it. And we're ready to go ahead and pick OK and close. And now we have 8.5 by 11 based on whatever printer driver that you established. The book suggests that we create a title block based on those measurements, but everyone's printer driver will be different. So I'm okay with you creating here a rectangle for your title block. Let's change the layer though to title block, and then we'll use the rectangle command to create here this rectangle that's within the margins, whatever your margins are for your printer. And then at the bottom, I think it might be good for us to change the layer to title block lettering and use here the multi-line text to create a text editing box here. I'm going to left click, pull my mouse across, and left click so that we can put here with our cap locks on assignment 7 or whatever your assignment is. Verify that it's assignment 7, and then you can put the name of this file, which is the Geneva CAM, so we can put that here, and then over here we'll put your name. Okay, then click outside in here in the space and maybe select it, move it over so that it's kind of lined up. I'm going to go ahead and turn off the snap. I will turn on here the object snap, which is the 6th icon, and polar tracking, which is what I use for straight lines. Some of you like to use ortho. It's up to you. But what I like to do is track from this corner. You can go ahead and explode the rectangle and use offset or just draw a line and trim it. I like to rest my pointer here, pull my mouse up, and then click, pull my mouse over until I get to this other line and click. I'm going to go ahead and turn my snaps and grids off. We don't need those right now. So now I'm going to right click and repeat the line command, and then somewhere around here I'll just hold my left mouse button down on the end point, pull my mouse over. I'm using that tracking tool called extension. I'll click here and here, and then you can either copy or offset, whatever you'd like to do, to create another line right here. This can be our title block. Later on, we're going to create a hole in this paper and be able to see the objects that we're creating in this model space. But what we're doing is we're creating these settings. We haven't saved this file yet because we're establishing our standards. What do we have? We have layers, we have some settings, and we have this layout space that's created. Now we're going to save it as a template. So we can go up to save. You can use this floppy disk icon or go here and pick save. And now this is how you save a template. You change the files of type to AutoCAD Drawing Template DWT. And it'll automatically suggest that you put that template here in the template folder that you see when you start a brand new drawing. It's up to you if you'd like to use the title that they gave you or just use your name, because your name will be kind of your company name or your last name, your name, template. And then pick save. A description of your template file. I'll just go ahead and pick OK. And now if you look at the top of your screen, you'll see that this file that we're in is actually the DWT, the template file that we're going to use when we start a brand new drawing. So you can go ahead and close out of it. I'll just pick here the X. We're going to start a brand new drawing. And now you can scroll down to your name template, because that's your template that you created, and then pick open here. So you started a brand new drawing with that template that you created, and it's still not saved as a file name. So this is where we're going to save it as a file name so that you can submit it as your assignment. So we'll go up to File and Save again, because the last time we saved, we only saved the settings as a template file, and now we just use the template file. It's still a DWG, so let's save it. You can then find the folder that you want to save it in, and once you find the folder that you want to save it in, you can give it a name. And the name of this assignment, which could be different depending on when you're watching this video, is going to be assignment 7, and let's call it Geneva Cam, and then dash and your name, so that when you submit it, I'll know that it's assignment 7 and there's your name in it. Okay, go ahead and pick save, and now you're ready to start drawing the detail. We can go to the model space, and now in this model space we'll start to create the Geneva Cam drawing in the next video.